Hey, this is Matt once again. What about to the videos? The other paid request is time for Josh. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, The Good German was a film I never even heard of. I didn't know anything about this, but it came out, I guess, around 2006. And it's directed by Steven Soderbergh. This is the guy who did Traffic, Out of Sight, Ocean's 11. I think he might have done the sequels. I can't remember. Among others. And Steven Soderbergh is a hit and miss director for me. I don't mind Out of Sight, and I liked Ocean's 11. He did one called Haywire I was not a fan of. I thought, okay, this is a guy that he doesn't know how to direct action movies. This is a very boring action film, and it's a waste of a good cast. Gina Carano, I think like Bill Paxton's in that, Ewan McGregor, I believe. Just felt like a waste of a good cast, but this one I get what he was going for, and so there's some nice visual aesthetics. I wish it was in a better script, better movie, these visual aesthetics. That's just me though. Because it's supposed to be like it takes place in 1945, and he's shooting the film like a black and white movie of yesteryear. So the whole film is done in black and white, and the way it's staged. The music, I gotta give credit, Thomas Newman did a really good job on the score. It's a really solid score. It's one of the best parts of the movie. There's stock footage used of the time period. And yeah, everything's done in black and white, has this lighting, try to be that film noir, Casablanca, those films of yesteryear, swipe transitions. So I appreciate that. Because I think I've said before, it'd be cool if someone tries to make a movie like that. But, nowadays. And apparently someone did. But sadly, the plot is not that interesting. They also do this weird thing where he is trying to make a film like it was back in the day, but he's putting some modern touches where I guess the take was, what if you made a film back then, but you didn't have to worry about the code, the ratings code? So imagine like a film from the 1940s, but if they could curse, or have sex, or have a bit of violence. So I get what they're going for, but again, it just kind of took me. I love curse as much as the next one, but I'm like, my mind is going to the films of the 1940s, but then I hear these guys cursing, so it's like it doesn't seem like a 1940s because of that, but at the same time it's trying to look like a 1940s, but it's not trying to be like a 1940s film. It's one of those things, like, it's trying to have its cake and eat it too. I don't know if that was 100% successful. But the problem with the film is the plot just kind of goes round and round and round without really getting anywhere. And it's one of those things, like, I like George Clooney. He's the lead of the film. Cate Blanchett, I like her. They're two good actors. To be or not to be, Maguire's in the film. They're not big on him. There's some films I don't mind him in, Pleasantville, Brothers, but this I thought was terribly miscast. Bull Bridges is in a small role. Leland Orser, who I remember from the film Seven. He was also in Alien Resurrection. He was a guy who was like, what the fuck is inside me? He has the chest burster inside him, which later on he drives the one guy and it comes out of him and the one guy's head at the same time. That's Leland Orser. He's also Christopher Lambert's partner in this underrated film called Resurrection, where it's two cops going against a killer who's killing people and taking the body parts because he wants to recreate the body of Jesus Christ, which, pretty interesting story. Like, Resurrection, that's a underrated film, done in the style of Seven. But anyway, so yeah, it's all in black and white. It's all trying to be filmed and lit like a film from that era. George Clooney, it's 1945. He's sent out to write for this peace conference about it. This peace conference. His driver is played by Tobey Maguire, and that's why I was taken back. He's saying fucking and bullshit. I'm like, okay, so I get it. It's trying to be in the 1940s, but what if they were able to curse and stuff? I thought he was miscast because he's like more like Dopey Taylor. Not Opie Taylor, Dopey Taylor. He's trying to, I mean, he's trying to be a weasel character. He does some black market stuff. But it's kind of like the guy in Predators. The guy, what the hell was his name? I cannot believe I can't remember the actor's name. The guy who was from that 70s show, but then Predators, he was supposed to be this killer, and then him trying to be Venom in Spider-Man 3. I cannot remember his fucking name. But I buy Tobey Maguire like I bought that guy in those two movies. Which I don't. So I thought this was terribly miscast. I thought they needed a much better actor or someone person. Let me find who that is. I'll look real quick. I got a phone right here. Predators 2010 cast. So before you guys type it in, I'll have it here in a minute. Topher Grace. That's who it was. It's like Topher Grace in Predators or Spider-Man 3. Don't really buy them in that type of role. I just don't. Just don't. So, saying lines like "Cry me a river" and him being a dick, and he pisses off one guy and gets his arm broken. So anyway, Tobey Maguire, he does some black market shit. He has his girl, played by Cate Blanchett. People are asking about her husband, Emil. And she's like, he's dead. You come to find out Cate Blanchett also knew George Clooney back to the day, and they had a fling back to the day. And George Clooney's character gets his ass kicked a lot. Tobey Maguire beats the shit out of him. Other people beat the shit out of him. Like, take a drink anytime George Clooney gets beat up in this movie. It gets ridiculous at a point. I mean, how tough is this fucking character for our lead? And it's supposed to be like film. Like, would actors, like characters of would lead characters back to the day get beaten up as much as George Clooney does in this movie? Beau Bridges plays his colonel. Well, you come to find out, spoiler alert, Tobey Maguire is killed. He's fished out of this water. So George Clooney's wondering who killed his driver, who was a dickhead, what is Cate Blanchett involved with, why is it that the Germans and the... Why is it all these people want Cate Blanchett's husband, and they want to keep a tight lid on this, what's going on here? And that's the thing, it kind of goes in this circle of he talks to this person, talks to this person, talks to Leland Orser, who's going to try to give him some information, talks with Beau Bridges, who wants it kept quiet, talks with Cate Blanchett, and they kind of go in circles in dialogue. And it's something to do with her husband Emil worked with the scientist who did V2 rockets, but also was part of this camp of slave labor, where 30,000 or so died. And this thing was called like Camp Dora. So you kind of find out that the Americans want this one scientist, but this secretary, who is Emil, they want to keep him quiet because the Americans don't want found out that they enlisted a war criminal to build their rockets. So it's not an involving mystery. Maybe it could have been, but it just spins his wheels too much. And you're kind of just wondering, when's it going to get going? When's it going to step up? have some twists, have some turns, have some intrigue, have some excitement, have some action, have some take a bit from Orson Welles with the way he directed. Whether you think it's overrated or not, uh, Citizen Kane, that's a well directed movie with the shots and the way certain angles and creativity of those shots have a part in that to really make this world come alive. And it really doesn't. It just comes off as more of a experiment that kind of failed because this movie did nothing at the box office. It got critically derailed. Even critics didn't like it. And no one remembers the damn movie. So it becomes rather dull and uninspired, and the visuals, other than some bits of lighting, they'll cut to like they're driving, they'll cut to like stock footage of the time, and almost was like a Godfrey Ho movie or something with the shit stitched together. Well, not Godfrey Ho, maybe, but I'm trying to think of something that has a lot of stock footage in it. One thing leads to another. George Clooney realizes what the Americans want, but he fails to stop it. Emil gets murdered. He's carrying the girl. Emil gets murdered in this crowd. He finds out what the Americans are doing. And then he's got the papers that Emil has as evidence. And Leland Orser warns him, saying, you know what? I got your little girlfriend on this list I have. I could get her arrested too. You give us that list, she can be safe. So she does get on a plane and safe because George Clooney gave them the documents. And then Leland Orser's like, oh, by the way, why don't you ask her what I'm going to arrest her for? What I was going to arrest her for. Because I bet she didn't tell you, right? And you come to find out that she turned 12 people into the Gestapo to survive. And George Clooney has his look on his face. And she's saddened. She gets on a plane. He walks away. The end. I'm like, so that's what this was all about? Like, George Clooney didn't do shit. He was a fucking useless failure of a character. Really. Just the mystery, he didn't really get much solved in terms of the mystery. Things just kind of fell upon him. Got his ass kicked a lot. He went round and round and round with Cate Blanchett, these other people. Found out he got lied to him by this lady who, yes, she felt guilty. She even says she's guilty for surviving. So it's not that she's a villain, it's just she feels guilty for doing this. Cate Blanchett did a good job with that. Like I said, both Clooney and Cate Blanchett did a good job, but just there's not much else that happens in the movie. Like if I look up the good German, like, again, have a bit of twists and turns the plot. Have them be a mystery that as you go along, it goes in layers and layers, and they find this, and they find maybe have George Clooney find the secret bunker. How about that? A film noir done in the style and lighting where he's looking into this and he's finding these bunkers, and then he goes to the bunkers and he finds these experiments that were made, and it gets like a very creepy film noir with great shots and lighting. He's going deeper in this cave system. He finds this world of dead bodies and how horrible and terrible that would be, and oh my god, and you find the deeper levels of how full of shit these people are, and 34% Rotten Tomatoes, even that's too high. And really, what is really solved at the end of the day? The Americans get what they want. They say, hey, it's a new world of bombs. Shows them a paper that the atomic bomb has happened against Japan. the Hiroshima bomb, so that the Americans get they want, the scientist, the V2 rocket, which we never see that scientist, but we know it's with them. Emil gets murdered. They get the documents. The girl who she feels guilty, but she did this, she gets away on the plane. And Clooney has his look on his face. That's why he doesn't go with her. I'm sure if that wasn't the case, he probably would have gone with her. But he didn't solve anything. He didn't really do anything. It's just a very useless, pussy investigator who got his ass kicked a lot. Just not a fan of the script. I like the aesthetic. I really like the music. Same guy who did the music for The Shawshank Redemption. Very talented composer. The two lead performances, the visual aesthetic, and the music are the positives. The boring, go nowhere script. This didn't work. This didn't work. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. And we will see you later. Bye-bye.